Do you own a front-engine Ferrari or are planning to buy one and care about values? Pay attention. In this video we'll look at the latest price trends and figure out which cars are still increasing in value and which cars are decreasing. The differences are large. Some cars lost up to 15% during last year, while others continue to increase. We'll first have a look at today's market and at the models that we will cover in this video. After that we'll have then a more detailed look at the price trends. Over here we have the US market in June 2023, split by model. The cars that you see over here are the ones we'll discuss in this video. A fair number of front-engine models are included, but cars like the Portofino, 612 and 550 are missing. I intend to add them in the future, but for now we'll focus on these models only. In total there are 501 cars listed for sale, and this is quite a bit more than 1 year ago, as a lot of new Romas and A12s are added to the supply level. They, together with the California, do then also make up most of the market. Now looking at these prices, we can see that F12 TDFs and 599 GTOs skew things by quite a bit. So let's remove them and make the graph a bit more readable. Alright, now we can see a bit better what's going on. Looking at the prices, we can see that the Californias are the cheapest. I don't think that anyone is surprised by this. Prices start at $75,000. In reality though, you're more likely to pay approximately $114,000 for a fresher example. California T's are $40,000 more expensive, and that brings them right into FF territory. At $155,000, you could even consider a relatively high mileage 599, and that of course would get you into a real V12. It is, however, between $200,000 and $300,000 that the number of choices that you have increases drastically. You're looking at high-spec 599s, F12s, GTC4 Lusos and even Romas. Personally, my money would always flow towards an F12. I'm a big fan of that design language. Others might prefer the more modern Roma, even though the values came down quite a bit, but more about that later. Now looking at the top of the chart, we can see that the A12 is really in a different league. Superfasts are approximately $120,000 more expensive than the F12s, and with $647,000, the GTSs are in SF90 territory. GTS prices were relatively stable for a long period, but started to come down during last year. And that applies to the majority of the cars that you see here and the car market in general. If this is the first time that you're looking into the price trends, or perhaps even the first time that you're looking one of my market update videos, it's important to be aware of the current market dynamic. Prices increased during the pandemic, but as with most prices, they cannot go up forever. In the first half of 2022, price trends stopped, resulting in a new market paradigm. Depreciation made a comeback, and this means that the majority of the prices are now lower than 1 year ago. We're talking at approximately 10 to 15% for most sports and supercars. Some lost more, others less. So let's figure out how much the front-engine Ferraris lost or gained. If you don't want to have a look at the detailed breakdowns, I recommend that you fast forward to the conclusion. Let's start with the GT models. Over here we have the price trend for the California, split by the normal California and the T model. We can see that price trends mimic the one of the market. During the pandemic price surge, prices increased by 15.5% in the T market and by 25% in the base market. Price levels of respectively $172,000 and $125,000 were the market top. Since the summer of 2022, prices have been decreasing. Both models lost approximately 9%. For the T this amounts to a loss of $16,000, and for the base model this is $11,200. These numbers aren't too bad at all. I already pointed out before that California values were holding up well. And up until now, this statement holds. Look for example at the mid-engine market update that I posted last week. 458 and 488 lost approximately the same. Now at its launch, the California received relatively poor reviews, but none of that's reflected in the price trends. The market loves the California, and in general, I believe that owners do so too. More recent articles about the California are, surprisingly, a bit more positive, revealing that the targeted criticism might have been too harsh. Jay Almond Cars made a video about a sentiment turn, and I recommend that you check it out if you want to know more. Now whenever I talk about the California, I often receive questions about the LC500, And when I talk about the LC500, I often receive questions about the California. Despite the difference in price point, there appears to be a lot of cross-shopping between them. A 2018 or 2017 California T is more than twice as expensive as an LC500. But surprisingly, depreciation levels are similar to the California market. A 2018 LC500 lost between 10 and 11% during last year. But let's move on to the other models. Over here we have the price trend for the 599 GTB, excluding the Alonso editions. Again, we can see that prices increased during the pandemic and stabilized in the summer of 2022. However, due to the small market size, it's a bit tricky to analyze. In October 2020 there were 39 cars listed for sale, but between 10 and 15 cars is a lot more common. The price point in July 2022 is then also an outlier. Supply more than doubled as the market was flooded with relatively high mileage examples. And this of course pushed prices down. So last year's increase of 10% isn't an accurate reflection of what actually happened. After a correction for the high mileage cars at this point, the increase ends up at 6%. And this is still a great result. The only other Ferraris with such strong prices are the low mileage F355s and the 360s. We saw that in last week's video. However, if we look at the short-term trend, we can see that it's unlikely that this upward momentum will continue. Median prices have been falling slowly, and the top part of the market has been falling at a rapid pace. The upper confidence level decreased. If we have a quick look at the GTOs, we can see that prices have been stable since January 2022. Median prices decreased slightly during 2022 and increased during 2023, but it's difficult to trust these points. This market is extremely small, so it makes more sense to look at the confidence intervals. Moreover, at this price point and market size, listing prices aren't always an accurate representation of selling prices, and due to the small size, this can have large effects on price changes. And with that, it's time to move on to the F12. But before we do so, if you enjoyed this video or find it helpful in your buying or selling process, please support the channel by clicking on the like button down below. Thank you. Over here we have the price trend for the F12, excluding the TDFs. As expected, prices increased by 25% between August 2020 and January 2022, and then stabilized. Compared to last year, they decreased by 4.4% or $12,500. This is a strong result compared to the rest of the market. The decrease results from a price drop in Q1. During Q2, prices stabilized again. We can see this in the median prices and in the confidence interval. Given this, I think it isn't unreasonable to expect relatively stable prices going forward. F12s are then also becoming increasingly rare. In August 2020 there were 58 cars listed for sale, but after that, supply hovered between 33 and 38 cars. Looking at the price trend for the TDF, the same words of caution as for the 599 GTO apply. This is a high-end market with low supply. Compared to last year, prices didn't change. You're looking at $1.35 million that you need to put down for a TDF. Let's have a look at the Roma. It's the first time that this car appears on the channel, and I received quite a few requests for it. So I hope that this is helpful if you're in the market for one. Over here we have the aggregate price trend, but this is a little bit deceiving. Supply is still increasing in this market, and this is keeping the overall price level high. So let's have a look at the model year breakdown. Over here we have the Roma prices for the 2021, 2022 and 2023 cars. And this reveals that depreciation is relatively high. 2021 cars lost 18% or $61,000, and for 2021 cars this is 13% or $42,000. These are serious numbers. For a brand new car, a loss of 13 to 18% per year in the first 2 years isn't extremely bad. But for a Ferrari, you tell me. Personally, I think that the price point of the Roma is a bit steep. It's a beautiful car, but we already saw that prices are on par with F12s, and that the top end of the Roma market sits extremely close to the bottom of the A12 superfast market. Therefore, I think that the Roma will continue to come down for a while. But that's just my opinion. Moving on to the A12 market, we can see that also here, prices have been coming down. GTSs are down by 11.7% or $86,000, and for superfast this is 9.1% or $40,000. Superfasts are then also 2 years older than the GTSs, so it makes sense that the depreciation rate is slightly lower. The rates themselves though are nothing to worry about when you compare them to the market. 2022 GTSs, for example, lost 14%, and this is less than the 18% that we saw in the Roma market. Now looking at the most recent period, we can see that the trend flattened a bit, something that we have seen now in a few other segments, and also in a few other markets. The largest decrease happened in 2022, while prices were relatively stable during Q2 of this year. And with that, there are two cars left to analyze, the FFs and the GT4 Lusos. But these four-seater markets are also the difficult ones to analyze. Supply levels fluctuate from 7 to 44 cars. Therefore, we need to focus on the patterns and cannot read too much into each and every price change. Over here we have the trend for the V12 and V8 Lusos and the FF. You can see that prices increased during the pandemic, topped in the first half of 2022 and have been decreasing ever since. Compared to last year, V12 Lusos are down by 7.1%, V8s by 13.3% and FFs by 17%. If we average out these price drops, we arrive at a price decrease of 12.4% for the four-seaters. This is approximately in line with the rest of the market. Now, just as in some other markets, we can see that prices mainly decreased in 2022. FFs and V12 Lusos have been basically flat, and V8 Lusos lost only 3% since the beginning of this year. So all in all, not a bad result for the four-seaters, especially given the reputation that they have when it comes to depreciation. Let's wrap up and conclude. Looking at the year-over-year price changes, we can see that, on average, prices came down by 9%. And this means that the front engine segment performed quite well compared to the rest of the market. The 599 is the only model for which prices continue to increase, but this upward momentum seems to have faded. F12 prices decreased marginally, but were stable in the last 3 months. California's also came down from their market top, but with price decreases of approximately 9%, values are still strong. The same applies to the A12 Superfast. The Roma and the A12 GTS lost the most when we consider the GT models, but they're also the newest. No surprises over there. Also, the four-seaters tend to fall on the right-hand side of the graph, but we need to be a bit careful with the individual price changes. In general though, we saw that the largest price decreases occurred during 2022, and that the more recent developments are hinting towards a more stable price development. But all the talk about future prices is of course pure speculation. And with that we arrived at the end of this video. Now if you enjoy this data-driven way of analyzing car prices, but would have liked to see a video for a different car, head over to my channel. Over there you'll find detailed market analysis for a large variety of cars. Can't find the car you're looking for? Let me know the name of the car by commenting it down below in the comment section. Once there are enough requests for a certain car, I'll make a video about it. As always, thank you for watching, and I hope to see you next week for a new video.